I've been known to make a tutorial or two on this channel, and in that spirit today, I'm going to be bringing you a video on how to improve in TFT. I've been kind of grinding TFT off and on this set, and I've been watching some of my friends' games, and I've been seeing a lot of the same mistakes. And so I just wanted to make a quick video and share some of the things that I have learned over the years in regards to this game. Um, and hopefully there'll be something new for you to learn. Hopefully there will be maybe some things that you will look at in a different way. Um, the goal is to have one thing that will help you improve in TFT. Um, so yeah, let's dive right in. I have like barely any notes or anything, so let's just get going and we'll see what happens with this video. I don't know, I might not upload it if it's just crazy, but let me stay full cam for a second just to talk about the first thing I want to talk about, which is um, very key to improving not just at TFT, but I think in anything in life, and that is having a beginner's mindset. Um, Realizing that you don't know everything, uh, that there is so much for you to learn. Even for myself, where I'm at right now, I know that there's so much that I can work on and improve on, stuff that I don't even know about, that I can learn still. So I think if you have that kind of mindset going in, realizing that there's always something to learn, it'll really help your approach, knowing that you don't have it all figured out. It can lead to improving. And like I said, not just in TFT, but in life as well. I think that's the easiest way to get better at something. So yeah, the second part of like high level improving at TFT is knowledge. This game, I'll just say that I think to be good at, to improve at anything, and video games especially, you need to put time in outside of the game. Just blanket statement. However much time you're willing to put in outside the game will directly correlate to improving at that game. But TFT even more so than other games. I think this is the case. There's just so much knowledge required to be good at the game. You have to know what comps are good. You have to know what items are good. You have to know what champions are good. Um, and there's just so many fundamental mechanical aspects to TFT, like when to roll, how much to roll, leveling. I mean, there's just so much knowledge required. You just have to know how shit works. Um, and like I said, I think TFT is even more so than other video games. That is the case. So it's up to you. Like if you want to put time in, if you're willing to put time in outside of the game, then that is your best course towards improving. If not, like if you're too busy or if you just don't care that much, that's fine. You just have to realize that you're not going to improve nearly as much as you will if you put that time in. So just know that going in. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I want to talk about in full cam. Let's go ahead and hop into the next thing I want to talk about, which is resources. And I'm talking like internet resources that will have good information, kind of the stuff I was previously talking about, knowing what is good. Um, at a very high level that I think everyone uses is like comp tier list. Notable ones are Frodan and Dish Soap's tier list here on tftacademy.com. Dish Soap is like he won Worlds. TFT, arguably the best player in the world. He works with a challenger player, Frodan, and they make this tier list. So also, Robin Songs has a not so much a tier list, but just comp list. Excuse me. That has good info. He has other stuff in this handbook. It's a bit outdated though, so I wouldn't really look at that too much. But it's just another list of comps that you can look at. I think most everyone is already at least at this point on the internet looking at different comps and stuff that they can play, whether it's on MetaTFT or these resources that I'm sharing with you. My goal is to just give you really good resources that maybe you haven't heard of, maybe you don't use, that you can check out and see if you can glean some information from them. So those are the two biggest like comp websites that I use. I'm a sicko and I don't just rely on one thing. I use a lot of different uh, resources to kind of pool my knowledge, and I think getting that from a lot of different sources is pretty valuable. Um, so those are the two biggest comp resources I like to use. Another good resource for just guides and fundamentals and that kind of stuff is bunnymuffins.lol. He has a YouTube channel that has a ton of guides on it. Here, I can go to this. You can see under guides here, he just has so many. And that's another thing with this video. There's just too much to cover. So I'm just going to try to lightly hit as much as I can. Uh, and I strongly recommend diving into individual topics such as these that you can see here. Check out his channel; it's very good. He has good guides for like leveling and stuff. We'll talk more about this later. Items, that kind of thing. I don't really like the layout for that, but uh, his guides are definitely worth checking out. Finally, the best resource, in my opinion, for TFT just across the board is tactics.tools. Um, Primarily, what you're going to be looking at on this site are stats. And this kind of ties in with what I said before about knowledge. If you don't know what items, champions, augments are good, you won't even like see them when you're in game, when you're looking at augments, you won't even know it's good. You might just be like, "Oh, that doesn't sound too good," and just re-roll it, and it's gone. But if you are able to uh, know what augments are good, you'll start to see them and be like, "Oh, I remember that's good." Same with uh, items and champions. You'll just start buying better champions because you know they're good. Excuse me. And same with items. Like you'll try to make better items basically if you know that they're good. So I mean that sounds obvious, but if just think about it, if you don't have that knowledge, then you're not going to make the correct decision. So what we're looking at mostly with this site is this is huge augments. Like if you can just have this up on your other monitor and say you get some augments that you don't really recognize or you just want to double check on, you can just search it and see its average placement. You can see the average placement for when you're offered it as well. This can be very important for certain augments just because they might be bad later. It might be kind of like a bailout later. Like you're fucked, so you just say fuck it, let's go for this, and it might not be as good as if you had it earlier. Um, but this is a great way to do that. So say you're offered support golem, for example. You can see that it's one of the best augments in the game, and you can see the average placement. You're looking for anything that is lower than a 4.5. This is a good augment. 4.5 is like your average, and then anything higher than that, not as good. Anything lower than that is typically good. Again, a lot of augments are situational, but this is just a resource to give you an idea of if something is good or not. So there's that. You can also see on the units tab here under stats, it's it's really nice. You can see, let's just go to like Karma here. You can see what items are good on this champion. You can see their play rate, like the most played items. You can also see the average placement. Um, I don't like seeing it here. This screen is mostly good for seeing like item trios. Like what if you have one item on here, what do you want to shoot for otherwise? And this will just increase your knowledge in regards to that. Um, they got everything under here, man. Like the best Oh, that's something else. Oh no, let's look at that in the Explorer. So that's the units and the augments tabs here under the stats, and Explorer is when the stuff that has like the really good stuff. So, staying on Karma here, let's look at Karma 2-star. Um, what you can look at here is I'm searching for a 2-star Karma. You can see what units are played the most with Karma and uh, which ones are good. The biggest thing you use for this is item delta. Basically, what item delta is it is the averaged increased placement if you have this item on them. So what that means is that for here, let me change it to craftable here. That means that and then let's up the sample size because that will be kind of fucked. Um, so if you were to build a static shiv on Karma, it will increase your average placement by 0.24 placements. Um, and obviously, like, what you can only have whole number placements. You're either first, second, third, or fourth. But this is just the delta of if you were to use that item. So you're not going to get a whole place or anything, but this will increase your placement. Basically, is what this means. Anything negative delta is good. Positive delta, not so good. So even just looking at this and seeing what is good, you can see that mana generation is really good on her, anti-heal, and that's pretty much it. Attack speed, anti-heal, mana generation. So it's a good way to see, like, maybe you don't know, this is really good for Radiant and Ornn items. Like maybe you don't know if a Radiant or Ornn item is good. You can search Karma 2 items and then filter it by this, like see what's good there. And wow, that's interesting. But anyway, that's kind of the power of the Explorer. You could also do this with like you can search traits, you can search augments as well. You can search pretty much anything in there. So you can see like little buddies. Like it increases her placement by quite a bit. It's a pretty good augment for her. So that is tactics.tools. I definitely wanted to spend some time there if you weren't already using this to, at the very least, I feel like the augment search is really good. That and the Explorer as well. Just to quickly search. If you're not sure about an augment, you can just tab over, search, see what its placements are. You can see your Giant and Mighty is pretty good. And you can just see its average place, and then when it's offered to you, pay attention to that because it might matter. So that's some resources that maybe you weren't using before, maybe you want to check out. Let's move on. Um, One thing that how do I want to do the rest of this? Let's just full cam for now. Um, One thing that I think a lot of lower elo is lacking is a game plan. You should be letting your items and your augments kind of guiding what you're going to play. I think a lot of people, well, I would say that as a general rule, champions also matter in that if you're offered like a certain champion very early, say you get a random 4 cost in your shop at like level 6, you just roll the 1% or whatever, that can also be used as guidance, but mostly it's your items and your augments simply because you can't change those. Obviously, there's exceptions like a reforgers, but as a general rule, since your items and augments can't be changed and your champions, I can't remember what I just said. Let me say it straight just to make sure I say it correctly. Your items and augments cannot be changed, but your champions can. So you can change your board, change what champions you have, but you're stuck with your items and your augments. So you should be using that more to guide you than the units that you get. And I think having a game plan going in can also help you a lot in this because, for example, the meta right now in this patch is to fast 8 and play around 4 cost carries. The big ones are Varus, Callista, Karma, Rise if you're desperate, he's playable. That is the meta right now. The rerolling isn't really in the meta right now. So if you go into the game knowing that you're going to be shooting for a 4 cost carry, it'll help guide you towards that goal. Um, so knowing that, yeah, I'm going fast 8. I'm trying to go 8 here. It can help you out tremendously. Um, what else do I want to say on that? Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, again, it comes with knowledge, but you have to play good comps if you want to improve at TFT. You can't be playing like Disneyland, like you have to know the bet, like kind of what I just said. Varus, Callista, Karma Rise, like that. If you get AD items, play Varus or Callista. If you get AP items, flex around Rise or Karma. Like that. That is simply going to make you improve if you play the good comps. Otherwise, sometimes you might go vertical into a comp that's not really good vertical without an emblem, that sort of thing. It's better to just know what's good, plan on playing one of those lines, and go from there. So that was a little tidbit on having a game plan. Okay, let's talk about leveling and rolling because they kind of go hand in hand. Like when you level, what level you're rolling on, that sort of thing. Just because I had watched some of my friends' games recently and it seemed kind of arbitrary when they were leveling and rolling. So here is a just very broad overview of those things. Obviously, there are situations where this won't be the case. There's other things that we won't consider right now. This is just to give you a very fundamental idea of how to look at leveling and rolling. So there's two big play styles in TFT. You're either playing a reroll comp or you're playing around 4 cost carries, like I talked about before. And reroll is, for those who don't know, it's where you're trying to 3-star a certain unit or units. Um, and you're not really prioritizing pushing levels. And then playing around 4 cost, you are pushing levels. You're trying to get to 8 as quickly as possible so that you can roll down on 8 and get 2-star 4 cost to play around. Like I previously mentioned, the meta right now, reroll is pretty much dead. I mean, all that's pretty much left is Jinx Wukong is playable. It's good if you get spin to win, but that's pretty much it that's left. All of the other good comps are fast 8 comps. But in case this will be good knowledge in case you play reroll in the future. Um, One term I need to explain before I talk more about this is slow rolling. Basically, that slow rolling is when you get to 50 gold, and then every turn, your excess gold, you roll back down to 50, but you never go below 50. That's just kind of the general term of slow rolling. Um, and that's kind of the main thing that you do in rerolling comps. You get to the correct level for the cost of the champion that you're rerolling, and then you slow roll from there. So let's take a look at this. If you are doing a 1 cost reroll, previously there was like a Jax Ash reroll comp, you would do that at level 5. So we'd get to 50 gold, stay on level 5, slow roll from there. And we're going to these levels because of the odds of those champions. The odds to get a 1 cost are highest at level 4, but level 5 is where we have enough money to actually roll. Same with 2 costs. Level 6 has the best odds. 3 costs have the best odds at level 7. So our game plan with rerolling is get to the level that is best, slow roll, and that's basically how you play reroll. In the past, I've seen people not be at the correct level. Maybe they're like rerolling for 2 cost on level 7 or something like that. Like they push too many levels. Or also on the flip side of that, they'll just roll to 0. And in general, that's not good. Obviously, there's some situations where you might need a donkey roll. You're about to die, shit like that. But this is just very broad, general information. So if you are not rerolling, we are trying to get to 8 as quickly as possible. Here are some intervals that you will want to shoot for. And you want to there's an idea that sometimes people don't want to go below 50. Like they see the interest and they're like, I can't go below 50. You can definitely dip down to like 30 or 40 when leveling. Um, so like if you're trying to hit 6 on around 3-2, then it's okay to maybe drop below 50. Don't feel like you have to stay 50. Obviously, it's better if you can, but sometimes you might need to dip below 50. So these are just general intervals. You won't hit it every game depending on your economy and your augments, but these are just some intervals that you can shoot for. In general, we want to try to 8 on 4-2. Um, Sometimes you might be poor and you have to do it on 4-5. But this, in general, is what you want to shoot for when going for a 4 cost Fast 8 comp. And you generally want to have at least 30 to 40 gold after leveling, with which you will roll the fuck down. So, um, yeah, I just wanted to offer out this information because it seemed like some people didn't know these things. So, here, information. Um, okay, so that's leveling and rolling. Let's quickly talk about items. A big problem that I see in low elo is that we look at these comp guides and people will put like BIS items on the champions and stuff. Be like these are the items that you want on the champion, and that leads us to tailoring around the BIS item. So not slamming certain items because we want to get BIS, and that's kind of it's just something that I would recommend trying to move away from. You're not gonna get BIS. You might get BIS items on some units, but um, you you don't want too many components on your bench. There comes a point where you need to slam items. Um, and this kind of goes along with what I was saying before about how knowing what items are good on what champions is very important because it gives you flexibility and knowing like, okay, this isn't its best in slot item, but I can slam this and get away with it. So that's really my main point with this is like, don't be afraid to slam items if like your components are like stacking up and stuff. Don't try to get BIS. Just try to slam those items. Obviously, it's a balance. It's very situational. But the problem I saw was a full bench of item components, and yeah, I just wanted to try to offer some tip regarding that. Um, and again, tactics.tools is such a good resource for that. Just knowing what items are good. You can go to Rise. You can see like the play rate of the items, kind of what you want to look for, that sort of thing. Here, sorry, I was on the wrong screen, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Stats, units, you can look at what's good on certain units, and yeah, let me just briefly talk about. Oh, what did I want to say? I just wanted to say something. Let's let's talk about a really quick like a tangent real fast about uh your brain power in in uh in TFT. Like I said before, it's like very knowledge based. So early on, we definitely want to use these comp websites to like see what the team comp is, stuff like that. But as we go on and get more reps, um, it's important that we try to start to move away from like uh the comp websites in game. And that'll come naturally as you start to recognize what units are good, what the comp consists of. You don't need that reference, but I just wanted to talk about how it's kind of important to get to that point eventually and not be afraid to move away from those websites during the game is what I'm trying to say because you have a very limited time to think. And if you are spending that time like looking at the comp, seeing what items you need, seeing what BIS is, it's going to just literally take away from the time you could spend thinking about your spot in game, thinking about spend time scouting, thinking about what direction you want to go, that kind of thing. Because you have a very limited time between rounds, and yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing. I just want to encourage you to push your knowledge to get away from those sites during the game. Obviously, tactics.tools is really good for just like searching stats on items and augments mostly, but um, once you can get to a point where you're free from the comp websites, it really just gives you so much freedom in the game because you're more flexible on your level 8 rolldowns. Like say for example, I have AP items and I know I want to angle towards Karma or Rise. My level 8 rolldown on 4-2 can be very flexible because I know what I need in each comp and I'll just see what the game gives me. And I think that just that opens you up to being just a more flexible and better TFT player. Um, yeah, that was just a little tidbit I wanted to talk about with because I think often we get chained to these comp websites. We have to have that exact team. We have to have the exact items. We have to have the exact augments. But in reality, you have so much more freedom when you get away from that. It's a great resource. But yeah, like I said, it's specifically during the game because we need as much brain power as possible in the game. So, random tangent that probably didn't make any sense, but I think it's important to think about. Um, and then finally, I'll just briefly talk about econ. I kind of talked about it before, but you do want to get 50 gold as soon as possible. Obviously, it's very situational, but 50 gold is kind of the golden rule. A lot of people don't value econ as much as they should. You want to seek whenever possible to make 10 in the early game, to then make 20 as soon as possible, to then make 30 because it's just I don't know if multiplicative is the right word, but the faster you can hit those early intervals, the more gold that you will make earlier. Um, so that's pretty important to just say. So anything else I want to talk about in regards to econ? I don't think so. Like I said before, sometimes say you're on a win streak in stage two, in stage three specifically, um, it might be good to break that 50 threshold and go down to like 40 or 30 gold if it means leveling up and putting in a good unit that will help maintain your win streak. That's kind of the biggest hurdle that a lot of people will run into. I think I briefly talked about it before, but like it's either they don't value getting 50, trying to get 50 as soon as possible, or they value it way too much and they just will not go under 50. So I think the sweet spot is kind of a balance between that. One final thing I wanted to speak about before kind of wrapping things up was the early game. I didn't really up until this set, I didn't really value the decisions I made in the early game as much as I should have. Specifically like stage 1 and 2. It's so important what you choose to do in the early game. Um, I like wasn't valuing the champions that I was picking. I was just kind of like if I saw a pair or something, I might take that. There wasn't really much uh, motive or thought going deep critical thought going behind it because the champions that you select in like stage 1 and 2 are vital to setting up your late game. So yeah, I just wanted to say really value like the what you're doing in stage 1 and 2, especially. Um, Try to angle towards good openers. Again, a lot of this is like I said at the beginning, it's just knowledge. It's just knowing what's good, spending the time outside of the game, maybe researching early comps, like early 3 or 4 unit board, like typically 4 unit boards is what you want to look up for the early game to learn what's good. Um, and yeah, that's really all I wanted to say on that. I know that's something that I learned this set was truly how valuable your stage 1 and 2 is. So that's pretty much it. It was very convoluted. I literally like I had two notes and I just kind of sat down and started talking. But again, my hope is that you learn something, and maybe if you're a long-time TFT player, it maybe changed your perspective on certain things. It was kind of a mix of fundamentals with high-level overview stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.